Well, good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock. There's only one or two people that haven't shown up, so we'll go ahead and get started. What we're going to do today, all right, I'm going to share the screen here. I think I got the right one. As soon as that thing goes away, come on, go away. Okay, so here's our plans. We've got the assembly done, okay, as you can see on the screen. So the timbre grooves, blah, 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 false back, vertical dividers, timbre stop rail. Now we're working on the edging, okay? This edging covers the joints, supposedly virtually unnoticeable. I guess that really depends more on who's installing it as to whether or not it's unnoticeable. When you guys come back, you can make your own determination as to whether or not the installer of the thin edging knew what they were doing and therefore produced something that was unnoticeable. It's asking us to cut strips that are just a little bit wider than the edge of the case pieces. And he worked from the outside in, which makes total sense to me. These two long ones go in first, then these next three long ones here, and then the ones that cover the dividers. That's one of the reasons this guy right here, this timbre stop rail, this thing that's got this bevel on the back edge, was left a little bit proud of the edges so that an 1/8 inch thick edging and this sticking out an 1/8 of an inch ends up being flush. So that probably means nothing to you unless you can see it. And then the bottom and horizontal dividers, he says a slight spring fit will ensure an invisible joint. In other words, it should just barely bow outwards like this when you put it in between the long ones so that when you press it in, those joints go away. Can't see them where they meet. Okay, so, and then he goes through the deal of sanding it flush. All right, so I've got enough, here I'm going to stop this sharing thing. I've got enough material to do all this, but I thought I'd at least show you guys how I cut these strips. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and there's obviously more than one way to cut strips. So let me see if I have the camera set right to go over the table saw. All right, so here's what I did. I'm hitting it now. All right. So I had a choice, and I don't know if I chose the right one or the wrong one. Who knows? Basically, what I did was I milled this oak down to just a little thicker than the thickness of the pieces that we're going to. In other words, when I cut this strip off, it's going to be a little bit wider than the case sides and the shelves. So basically what I did was I've got a wooden push stick. I've got the fence set about an 1/8 of an inch away from the blade. And I did a test strip to make sure it fit the way I wanted it to fit. And then basically it was as simple as keeping it tight to the fence. And making my cut. Okay. There's another way to do this. And I might as well show you another way to do this. Okay. Once I had jointed one edge of a board, I've got one here that's been jointed. It's got a bad edge on the other side, and it's at about 4.5 inches. So I'm going to set our fence to a little right at 4.5 inches, maybe a little less. And I'm going to rip off this crummy edge here, okay? So then we'll have two parallel edges. So now what I have are two good, clean, parallel edges, right? Okay, so what I can do now is, this is another little nice thing about these, or this particular magnetic feather board, okay? This feather board here, its real intent is if you're cutting small stuff, or you're cutting something that's kind of weird, or even big stuff, you're supposed to take this feather board, pinch it against the board and the fence, And it's kind of like a third hand, right? So now you can sit here and you can focus on your cut as opposed to focusing so much on using your left hand to keep the board tight against the fence. Well, the other thing this can do is this. You can turn this thing around this way. I can set up a cut for 1/8 of an inch, and that's the same thickness right here. So I'm just going to use this as a little gauge. Okay, so I can set this up so that it's going to rip off the same amount. Now what I do is I take this guy, and I'm going to set it up against the edge of the board, just touching the edge of the board. I'm not trying to push on it or anything. I'm just touching it, right? Okay, so that's nice and snug in there, right? So now all I have to do is make a cut. Okay, so there's a strip. So my next cut, all I have to do, set this next to the feather board or the magnetic guy. Slide it over so it touches. It's touching it again. I got a little snugger than that. It's touching it again. And I can do that all day long. Basically what we've done is we've set a stop, a specific distance from the left side of the blade, in this case 1/8 of an inch, which is the thickness of these sticks that we want. So we're just using this as a stop. It allows us to shift the fence over with every cut and get consistent cuts, okay? So there, like I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to cut thin strips. If we had to go much thinner, about 1/8 of an inch, we'd have to do it that way. It'd just be too difficult to do it any other way. All right, so applying the strips. All right, let's go back. See if that's where we want it. All right, you can see my head, that's for sure. Okay, so here's how I'm going to apply the strips. Okay, since I'm pretty much a lazy old man, so what I have right now is my strips are a little wider this direction than the thickness of the board it's sitting on. So in other words, it's going to overhang a little bit. I would rather it doesn't overhang to the inside because that's going to be a little harder to clean up with these inside corners. So I'm going to try and get it perfectly flush on the inside and have it overhang on the outside a little bit. I could just take a hand plane and clean that up when it's done. Okay, so if I want to clamp these little guys in place, that's a lot of clamps. All right, so I'm going to take a lesson from our guitar class and something I've learned about acoustic guitars and a little bit on electrics is we're going to use binding tape, and that's this stuff right here. I've got these rolls of binding tape. And so here's what I'm going to do. I've set all these strips up over here with the faces up that I want to show because there's some very distinct grain patterns that I like or that I want to avoid, right? So I've got all the pieces I'm going to be using with face up with the grain I want, okay? So really all I have to do is flip this little guy over. Okay, I'm going to get some glue on this block of wood. Whip out my brush. And I don't want a boatload of glue on this thing. I really don't. I don't want a ton of squeeze out. It's not going to take much. Oh, crap. Don't drop your glue brush with glue on it. It's not going to take much glue to get this thing to adhere. Okay. Now we have iron-on real wood edge banding that could be used in a situation like this. I guess we could use that, but the thickness isn't what it's asking for in the plans. But we could have compensated for that for where we mounted this timber stop rail up at the top. So we just brush our way up. And I mean, I'm putting a really thin layer of glue on here. I'm trying not to, what I did do was drop some inside that cabinet. That's not cool. Wish you guys were here because then I could wipe glue off my finger onto the edge of the table and you guys would lean into it and get on your pants. That's what little joys in life I get. So all of these are over length right now. I don't have them cut to final length. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and make it flush at the top of the cabinet. Then I can trim it off on the bottom with a little handsaw. These little Japanese hand saws. They work very, very well for that sort of thing. So we're almost there. You guys are excited, I know, right? Everybody excited? I'm excited. This is exciting, right? This is like better than Netflix and Hulu and the Disney Channel and all those other things. So I've got my piece glued. Okay, just gonna set it on there about where I want it. I've got some rags here. Okay, so now I'm gonna start with my binding tape. I want to start up here and I want to get it just where I want it. And this binding tape is just an easy release tape used in guitars for binding the edges on guitars. A protective binding material around the edges of an acoustic. I don't know if you've seen it or not. Okay. And it doesn't release with a bunch of ooey gooey sticky crap. So, like I said, I'm trying to get it flush on the inside. I pull it tight. That's still where I want it. This is quite a bit easier than clamps, in all honesty. Pull it down tight, and it doesn't tear as bad as that blue tape we use. It actually kind of holds a little better. It looks like packaging tape, you know, for cardboard packages, but it's not. It's quite different. Well, it better be different because it's a hell of a lot more expensive than regular old packing tape. Got to pull it down tight. Out, and just so you know, that old thing along the edge that cuts this tape, it's really freaking sharp. Really sharp. Okay, I'm just getting some tape here and there along the edge so I can see how it's doing. And then I'll worry about making sure we have tight contact the rest of the way along. Push that just a hair. All right, now look and see what we got here. Okay. All right, so I need some more tape along the edges. Hold it down better. Let's get it over here. I'm going to get that brush in water so it doesn't harden too much. Get some on here to really hold it down. So, I don't know if you guys have ever thought of doing it this way. We'll find out if it works or not. Normally, we would use clamps, I guess. We don't do a lot of this kind of edging. Usually, if we do this kind of edging, we're using that iron-on, heat-activated, sticky-back, solid wood material. And that's how we normally do edge banding. But this is solid wood, this entire project. In fact, I don't think the only plywood in it is the false back and then the little back that we'll end up putting on. The only plywood pieces in it, everything else is solid wood. So it actually is kind of nice to maintain this. And solid wood's a lot more forgiving when you go to sand it, right? Plywood veneers, like an oak plywood, does not like to be sanded much, or you go straight through that thin veneer and show the ugly stuff underneath it. So I'm just kind of checking this as I go to make sure I've got enough pressure on it to make sure there's no gaps. And there's always going to be tiny little gaps and things like that that you can't control. And that's where a little bit of ingenuity and putty work and sawdust and glue mixed together and things like that. That's where that kind of stuff comes into play. You get good at masking small mistakes and errors with a little bit of effort. So that's holding down really nice. Okay, this is probably better than we could have gotten with clamps. So stuff holds really good. I haven't used this tape before, so it's tough stuff. Okay, a few more pieces, and we're good to go. I hate to tell you what these silly tape dispensers cost. Since they're for a guitar, they're a little more expensive than your normal, average, everyday tape dispenser. And I didn't want to shoot those micro brad nails in this either. I had no desire to shoot that stuff in it. All right, so there we go. There's one piece. All right, looks like Logan's trying to get in. So there's one piece right there, okay? So it won't take long for that glue to set up. It shouldn't take long at all. Since it's such a light film of glue and it, excuse me, and it's held down pretty tight all along its length, I'm guessing that that tape could probably come off in about 30 minutes, 45 minutes and be fine. But I will leave it on. So let's go ahead and get the other side real quick. Let me spin it around. And then we've got one more thing we need to do. I've already got the piece sitting on there that I want to use. There we go. Face up. Get my brush out of the water. Are you guys bored yet? Because my goal today was to do everything in my power to try and ensure that I bored you to absolute tears. Okay? And the reasoning behind that is so you'll start wearing a mask and you'll stop creating more cases and we can actually come back to school. That would be nice. It's not looking good. The cases are increasing like crazy in the state and in this county. And that's what our return to school will be based on, is number of new cases. So it's not looking good. But I will tell you that I have seen students that I've had in class out in the stores, not wearing a mask, not social distancing, not doing any of the drops more in there, not doing any of that stuff. So I appreciate it if you do. I'm at that critical age that is considered high risk. But I have one thing going for me that is anti-high risk, and I'm damn good looking. I haven't noticed a lot of very good looking people die from this. I don't know that for sure, but I read somewhere online that the better looking you are, the less chance you're going to contract a deadly version of this virus. So I got that going for me, right? That should be a quiz question. You answer it wrong, you fail the whole quiz. How good looking is Mr. William? So good looking. Can't even put it in words. So once these dry, then I can do that little spring fit of the long pieces that the plans were talking about. And I can trim everything flush. And then the next thing we start on, honestly, is probably the drawers. And I got what I need to install the drawers so they slide very nicely. All right, there's our glue. There's too much glue right there. Right there. And there's a freaking little piece of the brush right there. Get it off. All right, let's get this other one taped down. Remember, flush at the top, I'll trim it at the bottom. Right there, perfecto. Okay. Nice and tight. Put that sucker on there really good. That works. That stuff works pretty good, man. That's a lot nicer than clamping. I'll tell you that right now. There. Checking the time. As soon as I get this one done, we're gonna move on to something else. Get where I want you to go. I'm actually getting a little bit of glue squeeze out right there where I put pressure on with the tape. That's fantastic. Good. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it might be. I don't know if you guys probably can't see that little glue squeeze out there, but that's pretty good. That makes me happy about this process. Holy nasty tape. Squeeze out there. Way down. Okay, so the other thing we're going to do today, there's a quiz. I do not have it published yet. I'm going to publish it as soon as I get done with this tape. I want you guys to take this quiz. It's based on the plans. There's a copy of the plans there. When you click on the quiz, there should be a copy of the plans to click on there. And there should be another one under Tuesday. But there is a set that's available for you right there when you open the quiz. And I'll publish it here in just a minute as soon as I get these done. And the quiz revolves around what we're doing right now with these hardwood strips. And I think it goes forward to the next page or something like that, but it's not difficult. It's just 5 questions. You should be able to do it with no problem in that time you have left in class. Do me a favor at some point. It's the middle of the quarter. And I'm supposed to send out letters to people that aren't passing. I don't think there's anybody in this class not passing. But do me a favor, double check your grade in Power School. Do not check your grade in Canvas. In fact, I think I turned that off so you can't even look in Canvas. Just check your grade in Power School and make sure I have everything right, attendance, quizzes, stuff like that. The quizzes are set up so that you can go back and you can take it over again. You can take the quizzes as many times as you want, and it'll record the highest grade. So if you're not happy with what you have, you can go back and at least fix the quiz portion if you missed 1 or 2 on a quiz. So double check your grade, make sure it is what it's supposed to be, but check it in Power School the same way we used to do it in days gone by before all this stuff happened. Okay, and please, that way there's no questions or issues or people yelling at me or crying at the end of the semester when they didn't get the grade they thought they should have gotten. It actually is your responsibility to kind of keep an eye on your grades and make sure your teachers are being honest and getting things entered properly. What's happening is these grades are automatically sent from Canvas to Power School, and there's been some issues with these along the way. So your ability to catch these issues is important. Okay, so there's the tape job. Looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Yeah, you have a quiz, Sue Cross. Didn't I just say that? Did anybody else hear me? I say we had a quiz. Yeah, you have a quiz. What did I just say? I'm gonna share the screen with you, and I'll show you where everything is. Okay, you still there, Sue Cross? Yeah, he's still here. All right, always. Oh well. Excuse me. All right, so I'm going to take you to your, this is your home page, right? You guys know that. Here's your modules. Here's today. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this quiz, okay? So when you open it, there should be a copy of the plans right here that you can reference for the questions. Only 5 questions. I think there's also, if I did it right this morning, because I did this early this morning. No, it's not there, but I'm going to go ahead and put some plans on here so that you have it. I can't spell. Oh man, this keyboard's weird. And it should be pretty easy to find them. There it is right there. All right, so there's another set under, I put it under Monday, didn't I? Today's Tuesday. Well, good Lord. That's dumb. Let's go back and put it under Tuesday. Jeez. So here, I did have it under Tuesday. That's why I couldn't find it. There's the plans here. All right. So you guys should be able to take the quiz now. Go ahead and take the quiz. Once you're done with the quiz, just make sure that your name is in the chat window thing for attendance. And once you're done with the quiz, you're welcome to take off. Thank you for being here. You guys got here pretty much on time today. I appreciate that more than you know. Take care of yourselves this afternoon. We will see you tomorrow. Same time, same channel, all that stuff. All right. If you have questions about the quiz or anything like that, I will still be online here. I'm going to go ahead and, well, I can't really tape any more of those pieces on, but I will be around to answer questions until the end of class. Okay. All right.